Hello, world! Today is Sunday, July 9th, 2023, and today I'm just gonna Google whatever weather is in the news, and then we'll talk about it for a few minutes and just see where it goes. I don't know, nothing scripted. I'm just gonna explore it a little bit. So, let's see what we've got. So, I figure we'll start this where every good internet search starts with Google. So, let's go to Google, type in weather, see what comes up, and let's go to news so we can see what's going on in weather news. All right, so right off the bat, our first stories in the weather news seem to be Northeast on alert for flash floods, storms triggering floods for entire state. All right, looks like we got some flooding in the Northeast. So let's take a look and see what's going on. So I'm going to go to weather.gov, check it out. Ooh, we can see a very extensive swath of storms and flood watches and warnings up for the Northeast. So let's see what's going on with this. So, where I'm going to start with is I'm going to go to, let's see, let's go look at weather radar and satellite. So, I like to use Call of Duty Page. They have a very good satellite and radar page. And we can see that over the past, let's see, so over the past couple hours, we've had some extensive thunderstorms or rainfall developing in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, down into the southeast as well. And actually, let's just go here. Let's go to W Weather Prediction Center. And we can take a look exactly how anomalous this rainfall is. So, overview, let's go to excessive rain. Oh yeah, we got a large swath of moderate flash flood risk for the Northeast. So this is looking at basically from Sunday afternoon to Monday morning, the flash flood, the excessive rainfall forecast for this area. Excessive rainfall basically means that the ground can no longer absorb it, and so it overflows and essentially floods. So what we're essentially looking at is a flood potential for these areas. Green is marginal, means low 5% risk, slight 15% in the yellow, and then a moderate of at least 40% for the red. So you see across the Northeast, from Vermont down to Maryland, moderate chance of flooding there. From Monday into Tuesday morning, it shifts up to Vermont more so, and then largely out of the picture by day 3, which would be Wednesday. So what's going on there? Let's go back to our satellite page and see if we can see what's going on. So I like to look at the air mass imaging. Ooh, pretty. So we can see a couple of things going on here. So first thing that jumps out is we have this very large trough coming in from the north over the northern states into the Great Lakes. That is this area right here. You can kind of see between the two different kinds of air mass. And it looks like it's funneling a lot of moisture north and east into the whole northeastern states. Looks like it's really firing around Pennsylvania, New York at the moment, another cluster down into the Carolinas and Virginia also. So essentially what's happening is this air mass is moving in, funneling this moisture north and east, which is triggering thunderstorms going on. That's my interpretation based off this. And if we go back to the radar, so you can see we have the outline of the United States all in here. These are the northeastern states. And you can see those areas I was talking about where they're triggering thunderstorms and rainfall. So let's zoom in a little bit. Let's go to some regional sector news. Just the Northeast. You really see, so this is New York over here, Maine's up in the top, Pennsylvania's down here. You really see it triggering right along this axis. I think there's some sort of frontal boundary in this area that's triggering it along there. The whole thing is just generally focusing really north of that I-95 corridor. And just for giggles, let's look at the satellite imagery one more time up close. I bet we can see some cool bubbling going on. Yeah, you can really see that convection kind of popcorning right in here. You see that big fluffy white? That is where clouds are just really developing. Thunderstorms are firing, and this training over that area. I would like to, let's see, I want a different look at what's going on. So let's go to tropical tidbits. Now these are forecast models. What we just looked at was current real-time imagery, but these are forecast models. But if we go to the high-resolution forecast models, let's look at it for the whole US, we can generally get an idea of what's going on in real time. I want to look at the upper dynamics. So what this is essentially showing is, so there's a couple of things on this map of the United States. First off, we have these lines that are labeled here. They're more or less horizontal lines with some curvature to them. That's an indication of how thick the air column is up to a height of 500 millibars. So colder air gets compressed, it's more dense, so you'd have a lower height, lower values, so that's why we see 564 up here. Warmer air expands, so the air column would be slightly thicker, so that's what we see down here across the southern states. We're up to 588. In either case, what I want to look at is, this is looking at the past, so this is where we currently are. Ooh, look at that, look at that. Okay, so what we can see here is we can see right in this area over here, it's north of the Great Lakes, the northern plains into southern Canada. That is that large trough that I was talking about. That's really driving this whole thing. It's kind of the big wheel spinning. More or less channeling air from these lower states northward and eastward into the northeast. But we can see a key player here, and that is this smaller trough. We call this a shortwave trough because it's a smaller wavelength, smaller disturbance, if you will. And you can see this little kink right here kind of makes a bulb down to the left or downward and to the right. And if you watch, that kind of goes around the bigger pinwheel, and it kicks this, what we call cyclonic vorticity, up into the northeast. Now, cyclonic vorticity, the most simplified way of thinking about it is basically this is essentially rising air. It's air that is, generally speaking, rising and therefore has more potential to trigger convection, rain, thunderstorms. So where we see this red, that is areas where we would expect to see more precipitation. Generally speaking, the precipitation would be out ahead of it, and the cyclonic vorticity would be somewhat behind it. So we can see that this short wave is moving to the northeast. It's triggering the cyclonic vorticity, which is helping to trigger those storms in the northeast right now. You can actually see full-on circulation developing there, that circular pattern over New York and Pennsylvania. That's probably an actual low-pressure center developing, which is helping to just intensify this area. So yeah, long story short, that's what's going on in the Northeast. Actually, we can take a look at one more if we go to SPC. That's the, let's see, mesoanalysis. Okay, so basically what this is looking at is the precipitable water. So if you think of the atmosphere as a giant column of air, big tube of air going straight up to the end of the atmosphere, there's a certain amount of moisture in that column above, above your head, above my head, and depending on how much moisture in it, if we were to condense all that moisture down, basically it would be a certain quantity of liquid water. And this is what that measures. So we can see these green areas, that's where it's over 1 inch of liquid water is spread out in the atmosphere above our head. But if we look at the Northeast, they have values from 1 over from over Ohio, Kentucky, Ontario, up to looks like up to 2 inches across the coastal areas. So from Jersey to Long Island, New York, Connecticut, up to 2 inches of liquid precipitation. Looks like a lot of western Pennsylvania, then southeast New York, including the Hudson Valley, Vermont, New Hampshire. These areas are in the 1.5 to 2 inch range, which is a lot of precipitation. That means that the air as a whole is very moist, so when these thunderstorms do develop, they have the potential to drop a significant amount of water, amount of rain, leading to that flood risk. And actually, if we go back to, I just want to go back to the radar, and let's see exactly how intense some of these storms are. So we can just zoom in on them, really. Basically, all these red areas, these red dots, that's where it's a very heavy rain falling. Very heavy rain falling from, really from, looks like Baltimore, northeast of Philadelphia, up in northern New Jersey, and into southeastern New York. And I would be willing to bet, I think we already looked at it, but just to look again, there's probably a lot of flash flood warnings going on with these storms. And we can see a lot of flash flood warnings. So what we're looking at right here, this is southern New York and Connecticut, northern New Jersey. Green is flood watch, meaning there's potential for flooding, whereas the red, that's flash flood warnings going on. It means a lot of rain has already fallen, and basically it's causing flooding conditions in those areas. So I would bet if we click on Ulster County, let's see, we can click on this flash flood warning, and Doppler radar, and as we indicated, thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Between 2 and 3 inches of rain have already fallen. An additional 1 to 3 are possible. So these areas are talking up to 3 to 5 inches of rain. And actually, if we go to, let's see, go to look at the National Weather Service pages in these areas, look at their forecast maps, and you can see, like, right in the forecast maps, how they're explicitly forecasting widespread 2+ inches, 4 to 6 inches getting up into northeastern New York into Vermont. And again, this is kind of looking at that severe weather, the Weather Prediction Center graphic showing the red areas at heightened risk of flash flooding. So that's a quick overview of what's going on with the flooding out there. This should persist through, let's see, just looking at this forecast model, I'm thinking that it should start to clear New York by Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. We can actually just, let's pull up the little forecast graphic. Let's click on let's click on Albany, New York, and see how long they have the rain going. So heavy rain this afternoon, heavy rain tonight, heavy rain Monday, heavy rain Monday night, Tuesday morning, and then looks like clearing out later in the day on Tuesday. So that cooperates pretty well. Be safe if you're in these areas. Don't drive through flooded roadways. And we'll take a look at some weather next time.